Hello, I'm Dr. Albanese, and today's health video is about dairy. We're going to talk about dairy and how it can impact your health. Now, we'll start out by talking about milk. Now, the purpose of milk when we're breastfeeding from our mom is for an infant's growth and development. And it's a perfect food for an infant to grow and develop, their immune system, their brain and nervous system. It has the right amount of nutrients and vitamins, minerals, protein, carbohydrates, and fats for that developing infant. Much like cow's milk is perfect for a calf. It has the right nutrients. It has the ability to support the growth and development of a calf. In fact, the growth and development of a calf and an infant are very different. An infant will double its body weight in about 180 days, whereas a calf will double its weight in about 47 days. Cow's milk is filled with saturated fat. About 60-70% of cow's milk is saturated fat, and that's important for a developing calf. But that saturated fat has a great impact on a human being when we're drinking cow's milk. And one of the big side effects of drinking dairy or eating dairy is the increase in weight gain. And that's one of the reasons why we have an obesity epidemic. One of the reasons is the consumption of dairy. If you look at the makeup of cow's milk compared to infant's milk, it's very different. Infant's milk will have about 45 milligrams of calcium per 100 calories, whereas cow's milk will have about 194 milligrams per 100 calories. Very different makeup, and that's because it's perfect for cows but not for infants and not for human consumption. The amount of sodium in infant's milk is about 23 milligrams per 100 calories, whereas cow's milk about 80 milligrams. So it's very different, and the makeup of the milk is very different. It's specific for that specific animal, whether it's a human being or a cow. Now, something else that cow's milk has is called bovine growth hormone. It's stimulated by the pituitary gland of a cow, and bovine growth hormone is important for the growth and development of a calf, and also the stimulation of milk production within a cow. So, for example, bovine growth hormone will stimulate a certain amount of milk being produced by a cow. I'll give you an example. Say 5 gallons a day of milk. Well, now if you're a dairy farmer and your cow is producing 5 gallons of milk, that's going to generate revenue based on 5 gallons. But if there's a way we can stimulate that cow to produce more milk, that dairy farmer will make more money. So we grow in a lab based on bovine growth hormone, recombinant bovine growth hormone, or recombinant bovine somatotropic hormone. We see these initials as RBGH or RBST. Now, what these hormones do when we synthetically make them and genetically engineer them in a lab, we inject bovine growth hormone into bacteria, and as the bacteria grows, we take that and inject it into a cow. That stimulates the acceleration of milk production within that cow. So now as a dairy farmer, instead of 5 gallons of milk being produced by this cow, we have maybe 25 gallons of milk. So now you've increased your revenue stream by 5 times. It's going to generate more revenue. The problem is we consume those hormones when we consume dairy products. It increases the milk production of a cow by about 10 to 15%. So the profitability increases when a cow is injected with recombinant bovine growth hormones. Now, it also, recombinant bovine growth hormone stimulates the increase in IGF, insulin-like growth factor 1. Now, this is stimulated in a cow naturally to stimulate increase in milk production. But when we inject a cow with recombinant bovine growth hormone, it stimulates higher rates of IGF-1, and again, we see incidence and correlations, strong correlations between increased IGF-1 in human blood and cancer production, especially prostate cancer, breast cancer, reproductive cancers. And now studies are showing this over and over again. So that's something that dairy products over a long number of years, increased consumption, can now be correlated with cancer production. Now, dairy products also are very acidic, and that produces increased inflammation within our bodies when you're consuming dairy products. It also is very congestive to mucous membranes and sinus passages. That can produce things like acne, eczema, allergies. In fact, when I have patients that suffer from any of those, the first thing I talk about is decreasing or getting rid of your dairy products. And when you do, we see turnarounds with acne and eczema and allergies. People respond very quickly to the decrease or the elimination of dairy products with those conditions. Now, something else you have to think about is lactose. And we hear a lot of that now, lactose intolerance. Well, what is that and why do we have that? Everyone has some level of lactose intolerance because lactose is a very large disaccharide, sugar. Now, we produce an enzyme, lactase, that helps to break that sugar down when we're drinking mom's milk, right? When we're breastfeeding. But after the age of about 5, 6, 7 years old, and it decreases as we age, we stop producing lactase. Why? Because we shouldn't be drinking milk. Once we stop breastfeeding, we don't need lactase anymore because we don't need to break down lactose. But when we switch and drink cow's milk that has lactose, we can't very effectively break that down. And that we call lactose intolerance. We can suffer from upset stomachs and gas and bloating and other gastrointestinal problems. But that's what causes it because we are not designed to continually drink milk, especially from another animal. I mean, when you think about it, we're the only animal that goes to another animal to drink its milk. A puppy isn't weaned off its mom and says, hey, let me go over there to that gorilla and drink its milk. Or a cat doesn't stop breastfeeding and says, well, maybe I'll go to a cow and drink its milk. We're the only animal that does that. And it's solely done because of what we've been told. We have to drink milk for strong bones and strong teeth. Well, we're designed to eat green leafy vegetables, broccoli, spinach, lettuce, kale, chard. That's where you get great calcium. Vitamin D isn't even in cow's milk. It has to be fortified with vitamin D. All you need to do is go outside, spend some time, 15 minutes or so a day in the sun, and now you're going to produce all the vitamin D you need. That's how we're designed. So I hope you really think about dairy consumption and limit or certainly decrease the milk, the cheese, the yogurts. More than ever, we have a lot of alternatives that we can reach out to, whether it's soy milk or soy yogurt, coconut milk and yogurt, almond milk, almond yogurt, nut milk. I eat Forager's cashew yogurt every day. I love it. And it doesn't have with it all the negative side effects that milk does or the hormones. When a cow is producing so much milk because of the recombinant bovine growth hormones, it can oftentimes produce infections in the udders. So cows are given antibiotics, which then we end up eating or drinking when we're consuming dairy. In fact, about 80% of the antibiotics that are produced in the United States are for animals for this reason. So if you're just dead set on having dairy, I would highly recommend you have organic, non-GMO dairy. So at least you're eliminating the hormones and the antibiotics, and that cow is grazing on grass and not being fed genetically modified foods, which they are if they're not organic. So I hope you find this video helpful and really think about decreasing or eliminating dairy from your diet. You don't need it. We're not designed to drink it after we stop breastfeeding. So go to better sources for your vitamins and minerals, plants especially. So we hope you share this video with people that you know and subscribe to our channel. We appreciate you taking time to listen to our videos. And until next time, have a great day and be well.